You're live. Oh, amazing. Hello, people. Oh. What did you do to your leg? Is it still the same thing, Ava? Okay, everybody. We're live. We're just chilling right now.
Not that Ava's the only person we do this for, but if Ava's in the room, who else is there?
Morgan? Is Morgan coming? Morgan.
Do you not have cheer today?
No.
Because of the weather?
Yeah.
Oh. It was like pretty rain. It was nice rain.
It's slowly falling rain.
Yeah, it's a pleasant rain.
It's chunky rain.
What else got canceled?
Are the elements dog party? Your what?
That's probably not because of
Is it
driving.
your dog party?
Are you excited about that?
Yeah, every Sunday at 4, I was gonna stop by after the meeting, and then they're like, oh, he's there.
That's amazing. Her neighborhood.
You do love that dog party. Well, my stuff is just over here. My meal. My thing is spread out. Hey, what's up? You're in Alamo, you're over there with Ava. Cool. Drew, what's up? Did anyone play in the snow today? Have you been here all day?
Yeah.
Did you get lunch?
Yeah.
What? Wendy's nice. Did you play in the snow? I know Alyssa did. Ava, did you? No. Kimmy, did you?
I mean, I was out in it for like a little bit, but I didn't play with it because then it would sitting on the ground.
Those are yours. Oh, these are mine. Those are yours. They're the same.
What is that?
It's the Airtons. I like your painting. I don't know what it's called. Nice.
I said, oh, I can't race you guys.
I think it's like a type of scrunchie, but like until
I can know this.
Aren't hair scarves the ones that like wrap around your body? Like not like
There's
not
some
like a
scarf, but the scarf.
just like a
You wrap around your body?
No.
Or
I
To keep like your hair out of your face and not like a religious one, but like
headscarf. That would be hair scarf.
hair scarf.
I haven't said headscarf. I think that's like a job, right?
Hijab is on hijab.
Right, the job.
Where's your book? Where's your book?
I have such messy handwriting. I hope I like answer the questions like correctly as if I understood what they were asking.
That's good. I'm not gonna be like Ava, which is you're so wrong.
You can see minus.
I will say, I think this week was a little bit harder on some questions. I think some of the questions I was like, I don't even listen to names before. So, but they kind of like read. What's up, AJ? AJ, how scary of a driver is Kate?
She's actually a pretty good driver.
That's good. Does she drive you?
No,
Can you drive?
no.
Find the video. Let's go.
Next week, or longer, we'll start going with curriculum for kimchi. What are the favorite things? I don't know what it is.
Do you think it's gonna be the full hour?
I think it'll be an hour. Usually it's an hour and a half, so it's probably an hour. Next week, next meeting, 2 weeks from now. That's what it's scheduled for. You tired? What do you know? Give a few minutes. I scheduled the first 10 minutes to chill because everyone's late.
So mine's on.
I already looked. Mine's gone, too. I'll just square rectangle. It's a D.
That looks like a musical symbol.
I know. Should tell him that. I want to fill it in. I wonder if he'll know it. If he asks, it's because it looks like a musical symbol and not an actual D.
And his and, is that and or?
Yeah, it looks just the same thing as D.
And is it false foods at the top? Like that's flower.
Where?
Under people worship spirits and false gods. It looks like books or food.
Oh, it looks like
Or
books.
What does this say?
Mary,
Morin?
Morrow, Mar.
What does that say? Anybody?
Tomorrow.
What is books say?
You should know.
Marren is what it looks like, doesn't it?
I think it's hard.
Maybe those aren't ours. He can wash his bag as we're reading out of his Marked. Marred.
Marred, maybe. Marred identity.
Marred identity. Maybe that's it. Intertribal conflict.
Y'all interpreting the handwriting? How's it going?
We don't know what this word says.
Oh, my teaching time will be for. Mark.
Okay, so we weren't wrong after the first guess.
AJ! Hi. Excited to see it. You already worked 6 hours, right?
Just 6 hours and 5 hours of that would be out.
When I saw that he texted that, I'm like, oh.
Oh, no.
No, that would be good. Does anyone know if the Mullins are coming?
Jack didn't tell me if they were.
Claire.
Jack's not here.
I know, but he was gonna take me to get my car. And he said, I'm gonna just come to the meeting.
Oh, cool. And then I think that's everybody. Macy's not coming. And the rest of them are the ones. So, it is. We'll give them a few minutes. Did anyone do anything fun for Christmas?
Oh, we didn't see each other since Christmas.
It's been a while. Santi doesn't even remember.
Probably went to Christmas Eve service.
We'll stay home.
Dad's a pastor, so that's kind of a given.
This is bad.
It's fine.
Oh, for New Year's, you like to cry down on like a mattress and just watch movies.
Oh, that's
That's
fine.
fun. What was the best Christmas movie that you watched? Or movie?
Let's have your brother.
We didn't watch it. Oh,
What's
Is he good?
yeah, he's fine now.
Smooth?
Did you know that?
I haven't seen it twice, so I just maybe like, but it's still in the phone.
Oh, where'd you go?
Anyone else in your family?
Okay. We think that
Nice.
about it, his brother's girlfriend's and stuff.
Brothers, girlfriends, whose brother's girlfriend stepped in?
My brother's girlfriend.
Your brother's girlfriend stepped in.
No, wait, your brother, okay. How old is your brother?
I'll be 20 on Thursday. We're going up to his apartment and he's making us dinner.
For his birthday?
Uh-huh.
That's sweet.
Or he's-
What's his name, Nico?
Yeah.
At least you didn't get it.
Yeah. He like wouldn't not work when he used to see us though. I would literally like prepare a tray for his birthday, leave it on his doorstep, knock on his door and go, your food's here, and then run away.
So was he refusing or were you just like?
He was like, the only time we saw him is we were all outside and he opened up his window.
What's up, Mullins?
I knew Jack was coming. I know.
That's fine.
I was bored. We were asking about, does anyone here want, so Jackson didn't come here, but Jackson.
But Jackson joined. Cool, you join your hub. Oh no. Okay, we're gonna start off with the game because.
Don't worry if you can't see that screen, we've got really everything you need.
Yeah, that's just gonna stay on that screen the whole time. We played this game for hundreds, so if you've been on that trip, then you'll know it. It's how many words can you get out of a word? And so you're gonna play with your subgroup, but you can only have one piece of paper and one writer. So 2 people cannot grab a pen. Somebody cheated last time, that's why I'm saying that. So, the first word, yeah, y'all can go around. The first word is the place that we're going. Any guesses? San Antonio. So at the top of your paper, right? San Antonio.
I do like this game.
You have approximately, hold on, I clicked on calculator instead of calculator.
San Antonio.
San Antonio. You have 2 minutes to write as many words as possible. On your mark. And they have to be real words. No, like, dumb words.
Words that have to do with San Antonio, right?
No, anything that you can make out of the letters of San Antonio. Get set, go. 2 minutes. Maybe 2.5, I'm feeling high.
No.
And you can actually make a lot of words. Your name's Jack.
No, he's not a Jackson.
I know, but I call him that. I don't know why.
Did you know that if it was my wife's decision, you know this, our son's meeting, Jack?
Really? And then you're like, I just need no one.
I literally remember he asked me, what day is this Six Flags at your house? Honestly, I'm gonna tell you, you're gonna keep it that. But you're like, tell her, Jack.
I remember you like sat me down. You were like,
Oh,
you were literally told me it wasn't gonna be Jack. You were like, listen.
And you were crushed.
You're like after much discussion.
And it's probably one of our.
Yeah.
You're halfway there.
We didn't want his namesake to be so unknown. Like, we didn't want an absent namesake. You literally have to come over my house if you can hurt me.
You're like me for remember how you
The lady one.
30 seconds.
Sure.
I don't care. If it's real word, it counts.
So what do you go at?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pins down. Count 'em up. Okay, Santi, how many words? How many words?
25.
Oh, I have to say, they won. Okay, what was your best word though?
Most letters.
Like your favorite word?
Most letters. Most letters.
Your favorite word? What is it?
Hey, tell me.
That's pretty good. What's
NASA.
I hate to tell you, you spell ancient. That's okay. Okay. I have another word for you.
Taco.
It's not taco. It is Riverwalk.
Ooh, that's good.
So at the top of another part of your paper, write the word Riverwalk.
And then right below it, write river and walk.
Yeah. Ready, set, go. That's 2 words, river and walk. And A, that's 3.
Man, Jack. Hey, so you know there's somebody screwing all these bolts.
We use so hard.
That's fake.
I remember you actually, they did do that.
Then we came in and they were like, remember, is these people,
Who did it?
the big little,
It looks like, what's it called? Kids Ministry.
so there's this thing
Like everything's
that
like
Steve
that.
Strickland like says, and it's like in preschool, you can do like fake things. So you can have fake theories, like fake things, you know, like kids floating on balloons, dragons, and things. Kids ministry, you can get away with fake real. And so like think about the district, like all of that is fake, but it looks, I mean, this is fake, but this is a real thing. And they said student ministry, you want real, like things are.
Like you want a real dog.
Yes.
Well,
We should have contagious and
So we asked them there in California, you know, like you can take your hair, like.
honestly, like the class pet, I'm holding it for that. We kind of had one, but it never, Sam was the only one that ever had it. We gave it a year.
Dylan, you, we had cancer, and we had his name, this is the reader, so always needed to call him Mr. Great. 30 seconds, you.
This is like your mom.
Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pins down. Count them up. Who thinks they won this round? Nobody. Well. Okay, first, what is your longest word?
That's what I was thinking.
Patient and short.
Liver.
Liver.
That's good.
Okay, how many words? Okay, how many words are you opposite? How many? 32. Okay, 32 to 17. I would say they won. That is pretty good. Cool.
Do it. Is that it? Or do you have another? Okay. Alrighty. Hey, we're gonna press through with Unit 2 here in just a second. But before, well, actually, we'll save that for discussion. I was gonna say if there's any just observations, but we'll let you guys do that at your table. Okay, so think back. Can someone offer us a definition of poverty? You know, speaking of Jeopardy, so this last week was Alex Trebek's final show, right? But didn't he die like a month ago? Was it post? Oh, that's how that works, Alyssa. Okay, I'll give you a hint. Someone, if you flip back to page 18 from Unit 1, it's there. That's my hint. So when someone gets there, just read it. Don't matter who. Love it. Thank you, Santi. So I'm going to say it one more time with my mask down, since I'm 6 feet away. Poverty is the result of relationships that do not work, that are not just, that are not for life, that are not harmonious or enjoyable. Poverty is the absence of shalom. Anyone know what shalom means? Peace, shalom, Shabbat. Shalom in all of its meanings. So when you think about the definition of poverty, according to them, and I think they give a great definition of poverty, it's really, really hard, and I would say virtually impossible to separate our definition of poverty from how we understand relationships to be. And therefore, from that place, I think it's fair, and this is kind of what this chapter and the last chapter talk about. Therefore, we can begin to understand ourselves as impoverished, right? Even though all of us, I was thinking about this. There's some sort of app or something where you can put in, like I know none of you really have an income for adults, like Neil and I, we could even probably put in our income, but you can just put in things like, do you have a car? Do you go to the grocery store every week? And you can answer these questions, and then it will guesstimate for you what like percentage of wealth, what percentile you're in as far as how much stuff you have. And virtually, I would guarantee all of you are pumping, 95th probably percentile when it comes to resources and goods and materials. And 95th percentile, of course, means that only 5% therefore would have more things than you. And so, with that, if we look at this chart, which this chart was in the video from Brian, right? What's his last name? Binkert. I think that's Brian, the tall dude. Absurdly tall, by the way. He talks about this chart, and he talks about the four main relationships. Again, a lot of this is unit 1, God, self, others, and rest of creation. But then what he does with this chart in this episode or this unit is he talks about how the material poor and the material rich view each one of their relationships. And so on the bottom here, as you can see, is materially rich, which based on what I just said, I think we can all come to an agreement that we're all pretty stinking wealthy. Maybe not wealthy for North Dallas standards, maybe not even wealthy at times for standards of America, but when you take that out and you compare us, if you've been to Honduras, you compare it to Africa, any number of South American country, any Middle Eastern countries, we very quickly get escalated into that category of material rich. And therefore, we tend to view God, self, others, and rest of creation as these things. And so since my handwriting is bad and while I was out, y'all were trying to read my handwriting, I'll just read for you. Typically, those that are affluent, right? You know what that word means? Remember affluenza team? Y'all remember that? No? Neil does. We'll talk about affluenza team earlier. But people of affluence, people of wealth, typically view God and they either deny his existence. I surely hope that's no one in his room. Or more likely for people in this room, we don't really see a need for God in our day-to-day life because it's really not hard to get everything we need. We don't think to pray for God that a bowl of cereal would magically appear in the morning because we pretty well know that like mom went to the grocery store on Sunday and there's going to be Cheerios in the fridge. And so therefore we don't really think of God as providing for us, right? Is that true? Looks like, do I need to pray Cheerios would appear in the Mullins pantry?
I just wondering why you keep your Cheerios in the fridge.
Yeah,
What did I say, the fridge? Sorry, pantry. I don't really like cereal, so it's not that I don't like it, I think it's overrated. And then we think about self, and this is really where we'll be focusing on this unit, right? Or really where Brian focused on self. A lot of times we look at ourself and we see pride, we see God complex. God complex is this idea that we are God and that we have come to meet and to take care of needs. This plays out massively in how we do missions, particularly to impoverished, low resource area. And then there's others. We often view ourselves as self-centered. We don't really think a lot about others. I'm not necessarily saying anyone in this room, but a lot of people we know. And then how do we view the rest of creation? I put workaholics, but really, as he talks about, it could just as easily be lazy. But basically, it's we don't think about the rest of creation. We're just, and these two are kind of similar, but we're just self-consumed in ourselves. And I didn't even talk about how those that are poor interpret these things. Obviously, we, for simplicity's sake, and I'm probably about to violate exactly what he's doing, but we can kind of assume these are the people we'll be serving in San Antonio, and this is us down here. So he talks about this in this unit. This primarily he focuses in on this other relationship, right? Just kind of where he hangs out. And real quick, in like 30 seconds or a minute, I'll even give you. Someone just kind of give us the highlights of Elisa's story. Do you remember reading about Elisa?
She lived in what people like the ghetto. She was like, she became pregnant at 16 and she was a lot of kids and like her late daddies were like her. I can think of like they don't provide for the kids, so she doesn't really, I would say, tough life. She can't provide for the kids because she lives in a bad place, or because she has kids, she can't work necessarily in the best places, so she doesn't have enough resources to provide for herself.
And okay, stop right there because I'm gonna come back to you, Ellie, whenever we talk about her situation was alleviated and redeemed. So I'm gonna have you pick back up Elisa's story here in a minute. But Ellie worked us all the way up to Elisa's story before alleviation came into the picture. And so we talked about this idea of poverty alleviation. Can someone read us that definition? It's on page 28.
Process in which people live materially poor and non-good, move closer to living in the right relationship with God, self, others, and the rest of creation.
Yeah, thank you, AJ. So two things that stick out to me about that definition is one, it is a process. Poverty alleviation is one of, in my opinion, and I don't understand a lot of things, but in kind of my ministry world and thinking a little bit about poverty alleviation, I think it's one of the most complex issues that the church and even that the government, because we rely on the government a lot for poverty alleviation, it's one of the most complex processes that we can get into, right? And she talks about that, right? And there's a reason that no matter who is running for office, I would say all the way from a city to a federal Senate congressman or woman to the president, they're at some point going to have to talk on the platform of poverty, welfare, social programs, and all that to say because it is such a complex, almost spider web that we step into. You start to think about it, and as soon as you tug on one thing, kind of like, if I understand spider webs correctly, as soon as you sort of tug on one end, you reveal something else. And so, okay, poverty alleviation. I got a great idea. We'll do this stimulus check thing for the rest of eternity, and we'll just give people, $25,000 checks every year. Sounds awesome, right? People would be able to eat, but what would that expose? We would have very little workforce. And so where would we go to spend that $25,000? Because no one would be working at merchants, for lack of better words, because why would you need to work? Because you have $25,000. Or, okay, cool, everyone, we do that, right? But even if you live in the quote unquote projects and you have this great handout, and I hope this doesn't sound like I'm getting weird and political, I'm really not trying to at all, I'm not a very political person. That's another thing that goes over my head. But we give people $25,000, but what happens if you live in what's called a food desert? Does anyone know what a food desert is? I don't know the exact mileage, but a food desert, which they're in Dallas, particularly in like West and South Dallas. If you've been to Serve Dallas, we've been to some food desert areas. But a food desert is where you don't have very immediate access to a grocery store. And so there are some people living in Dallas, particularly West and South Dallas, Oak Cliff area, who have to do almost an hour and a half to a 2-hour round trip on a bus just to get to a grocery store. I don't think any single person in this room lives less than 5 minutes from a grocery store. And so therefore, when you live in a food desert,
You go and you spend this quote unquote $25,000 that we just fictitiously made up that the government would give us. You go and you spend it at convenience stores and liquor stores, and you buy honey buns and Cheetos, and then what have you just exposed? A massive nutritional issue. So this is a long way of saying, and hopefully illustrating, that this is an incredibly complex issue. Schools play into it, property taxes, it goes round and round and round. And so all that to say, just like the definition says, poverty alleviation is a process, and poverty will probably never be fully alleviated until this last session at Breakthrough we just talked about, until heaven totally and in its entirety invades earth. Does that make sense? But lucky enough for us, we're called to be part of this long-going, complex process of alleviation. Now, the second thing about that definition that's really, really interesting is that when I, especially before kind of reading this book, and I took one of the most influential classes I took in seminary was an urban ministry class. I viewed poverty alleviation as I have to come and alleviate someone else from their burdens. I didn't view it as a hand-in-hand process. In that definition, in the video we watched today, it very much views it as something that happens side by side and we walk hand in hand together. What often happens in poverty alleviation attempts, especially from those of us who hang out on this bottom part of this grid that we've made, is that we kind of get our God complex going and our pride, and we feel really, really good when we can go and we can alleviate someone from their burden, right? You know, one way that I really struggle with this, and please, in one sense, you could maybe keep this somewhat confidential. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't tell you guys anything that I was really worried about y'all keeping confidential, but it just takes me a while to explain where I'm coming from. But one area that I see this and I've struggled with before is a particular aspect of the Honduras mission trip. And it's one of my favorite parts and it's a lot of fun, but it's on the last day when we go and we install a pila. Who's been part of that? Mullins, yeah. Which is awesome, okay? And there's no doubt in my mind that we have blessed dozens and dozens of family with fresh water, which is a really, really good thing. But does this really alleviate this idea? When we go, a bunch of white folks in Honduras, we install a water pila, which for those of you who don't know, think of it as an outdoor faucet. When we install a water pila or a pila ourselves, we do all the work. Most of the time, the family kind of just stays inside. And a few of us will go and talk about the family. And look, people, while we've installed pilas, have come to saving faith through Jesus Christ, which there's nothing greater than. So therefore, in my opinion, it's totally worth it. Y'all are just being invited into some of the weird areas of my brain where I just kind of think on these things. But it is kind of a weird thing that we go in there, we put it on the pila. And part of the thing that I think gets me a little bit about pilas, if you've been to Honduras, and what do we do that afternoon? Typically. Yeah, we then leave and we go to the beach and we eat this delicious coconut shrimp and drink these what are they called? Virgin pina coladas, and we hang out and it's awesome. And so it just really, and all that to say, and I apologize if you haven't been to Honduras, it really magnifies this idea of we're kind of coming in, we're going to save the day because we're going to offer them fresh water, which is going to be an incredible thing for them. But we'll never really see them. And for them to have this such huge blessing in their life, which will absolutely change life, they needed, let's be honest, the white man for most of us to come in and to do this. And so what does that do to their identity? It makes them seem like I'm worthless, I can't do anything. If it weren't for that group from Texas and those nice people, I would still be walking to the river and getting water and yada, yada, yada. And then for us, we feel awesome. We go and we install it and we know and we have these conversations about, oh man, that's so great. We've installed 12 pilas since being in Honduras. We've blessed these 12 families, which is totally legit. But if we're not careful and if we don't pray against this, we very quickly kind of start to get to this idea of, we're pretty awesome. There's a family in Honduras right now that's probably at that faucet washing their hands and not having to go down to the river tonight because we did that. And so therefore, nothing is alleviated And the only thing that's really escalated is our God complex and their marred identity. Does that make sense? I feel like I just talked a lot and talked very, very fast. Sorry, I gotta go back to my notes. Okay. Lastly, am I running out of time, Peyton?
Yeah.
Really? You're supposed to say, no, you're fine. And then like after, you're like, you went like 10 minutes over. Okay. So last thing is, one of the quotes that stuck out to me in the video, and then he says it again on page 32, is the church is Grand Central Station for the kingdom of God. Grand Central Station in New York City is where all these different trains, subways, Amtrak, all kind of feed into this one place. And then out from there, you can get all over the Northeast from Grand Central, and theoretically on the Amtrak anywhere in the US from Grand Central Station. So it's the hub of transportation for passenger trains on the East Coast. In the same way, I think what he's trying to say is the church should be the hub for poverty alleviation, right? And look, all the churches combined will probably, I don't know this for sure, will probably not be able to throw as much money as it as the government, and maybe even as some of these huge, massive nonprofit organizations. And so I really do think that there are some areas that can really do a lot of good that are not even faith-based on alleviating material poverty. But what the church holds that nothing else does is the ability to also alleviate spiritual poverty through hope and through offering the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so therefore, if any attempt for total poverty alleviation comes from anywhere than the church, it's sort of a limited approach, and we're really only alleviating part of it. Does that make sense? So we're going to discuss more now. But yeah, so I think there's some discussion. There are some discussion guides on those piece of paper. And so take a minute, and then Peyton will come back up.
I'm just gonna do announcements real quick so I can turn off the YouTube.
The YouTube.
But our next meeting is 2 weeks from today, which is January 24th, and it will be we'll talk about Unit 3 of When Helping Hurts, and the next people to do their use will be Macy and AJ. And then lastly, I had something else. Oh yeah, we're also gonna start going through our curriculum for Camp Champion, our halftime stuff. So it will be, instead of when we've tried to hit an hour on our last couple meetings, but we'll probably hit our full hour and a half for our next few meetings, because we're really gonna pack in going through our reading stuff and our discussion, our use, and try to get our curriculum things that we're gonna be doing in San Antonio. So expect the whole 3:30 to 5.
In some of those, depending, correct me if I'm wrong, we might tell you, hey, either one, bring some athletic clothes, we'll be in the gym kind of working through some of the games,
Yeah.
or in the parade. I would say we will for sure at least get in the break
Yeah.
at some point.
So like
Not
next
necessarily
week,
correct.
we're gonna go through curriculum, but then maybe the week after, we might go over games, so that you're not like getting there
Yeah.
and just being given games. So, cool. Cool. Okay, now go for a discussion. We'll do discussion for like 15 minutes.